The topic is EMFs, electromagnetic fields, electric and magnetic fields. EMR stands for electromagnetic radiation. Those are all different versions of the word EMF, and basically what it means is that it's a physical field produced by electrically charged objects. Here's the issue. You can't see EMFs, so it's really easy to say they don't exist. This is what EMFs look like if you could actually see them. Now that you can actually put a visual to it, let's dive into EMFs. And I will say I've read about this, I've researched it, a lot of things kind of both ways. I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand EMFs, and what I decided to do, let's hire an expert to come into my house that I've never met before. I've talked on the phone once or twice, unbiased, and give me his opinion. And basically what he found was that the toxicity from EMFs or EMR, electromagnetic radiation, was actually coming from inside the house, not outside. Which means really it was my choice, and at my power, what do I need to do? I need to digitally detox the EMFs out of my house. So here's what we did. First step was my office. That's my standing to sitting desk with my MacBook Pro, with my Apple keyboard, mouse, trackpad. Up in the top left, you can see the arrows. There's a what was referred to as industrial Wi-Fi right next to my head. There was a Wi-Fi Sonos speaker. In the closet was a Wi-Fi printer. I have obviously my computer that's Wi-Fi. The keyboard and mouse is Bluetooth enabled, and then usually my cell phone sitting right there. This room was off the charts. This was the Apple keyboard trackpad that hit the graveyard. It is no longer because it is wireless and Bluetooth. And basically what I found out is you can't have Wi-Fi, you can't have Bluetooth. I mean, that's a huge source of EMFs. Sonos Wi-Fi speakers, even though I had them on switches that actually literally killed them, so the Wi-Fi wasn't running all the time, even when I would turn the speakers on, the Wi-Fi was off the charts. So Sonos, even as expensive and nice as they are, they hit the road as well too. Back to the wired speakers. This is my daughter's room. Top right corner where that arrow's pointing, there is a smart meter on the other side of that wall with the circuit breaker. Right where the right arrow or the red arrow on the left side is, that is right where an air filter ran that we would turn on only at night. My daughter's room, and that left arrow is also the wall to my office, which all the Wi-Fi. Now I did shut the Wi-Fi off at night about 10:30, but my daughter's already sleeping for 3 hours. So found out really no Wi-Fi, gotta go corded. No Bluetooth, don't be running that stuff. It's a big source of EMFs. Also found out the reason my daughter said she didn't like her toothbrush was because when you turn it on, this is a Sonic Care Kids toothbrush, it kicks off a high amount of EMFs. And of course, it's like right in your brain right before you go to bed. Also found out that our toothbrush, my wife's and my toothbrush that we were given as a gift, has Bluetooth built into it. And when you turn it on, it goes off the charts of EMFs and Bluetooth or RF radio frequencies. So basically, going back to the hand toothbrush, no more powered toothbrush. This is a huge offender. This is the EcoQuest ionizer ozonator. Huge amount of EMFs. My daughter the week before put a Band-Aid over it and said she didn't like it. I'm like, this is really starting to make sense. This was the air filter that we had in my daughter's bedroom that we would turn on only at night. Big offender, number one seller on Amazon, number one bestseller on Amazon. Definitely recommend stay away from it. This also hit the graveyard. This is a picture of Michael Schwabe, who I interview, and he is the EMF expert. He measured LED lights. Any LED lights that are actually plugged into the outlet kick off dirty electricity because it's AC that has to get converted to DC for LED lights. This was our IKEA closet LED lights that flipped on. Those lights, those are unplugged. There's no more lights for the closet anymore. Other things that we learned, Stetzer filters don't remove dirty electricity. Let me repeat that. Stetzer filters do not remove dirty electricity. iPhone, iPad, and computer chargers, even if you're not charging them, if they're plugged into the wall, they're giving off EMFs. So unplug them from the wall if you're not using them. Extension cords, make sure they're shielded. And that was a big takeaway. Go back to wired Cat 5, Cat 6 lines, wired speaker lines. Make sure extension cords are shielded. Make sure Cat 6 lines are shielded. And this is how you can reduce EMFs. There are great tools out there. This is the interview, and I hope you enjoy it. I am excited to introduce my guest, Michael Schwabe. Michael, welcome to the interview with myself, Dr. J.
Thank you.
Michael Schwabe is an expert in engineering, understanding, buildings, and specifically EMFs, or what he would refer to as EMR, electromagnetic radiation. And so we literally just got done. He did an evaluation on our house that we've been in about 3.5 months. Definitely a lot of takeaways, which I want to get into, but it's kind of been a long day. He's brought basically a whole host of different tools and things to actually measure what you can't see with your eyes. And I guess one of the takeaways that we were just talking before starting this interview, Michael, was it's almost as if when you clear away that noise, when you clear away the EMFs, then when something comes up, you can start to feel it. And I almost get the idea, or my thought process right now, because I'm really, to be honest with you, I'm pretty overwhelmed. There's a lot that he found with the house, and I want to have him get to that. But I'm almost at the point where I think so many Americans and people around the world are bombarded with EMFs, and so many that the bodies, we're not in tune with understanding or feeling them because we're just overwhelmed all the time. And when you clean it up, then it allows our bodies to start feeling it.
And rest.
And heal, and health. So I guess, start off for my audience, Michael. So I heard about EMFs a long time ago. I've kind of been researching here and there, trying to understand it. I feel like there was no clarity. Found an expert in Illinois. He referred me to somebody in Northern California, which then referred me to the Building Biology Institute website. Found you on there. He personally recommended you. I called you, and I'm like, hey, I really want my house checked, for electromagnetic radiation or EMFs. And the one thing I would like is if we could record it. And you're like, that's interesting, but okay. So, obviously I wanted to record, and it was just kind of on the fly. I didn't know what you were going to find. We hadn't met in person before this, so it's all brand new for us to meet. We've talked on the phone briefly a couple times, but so I guess give us a background. You're certified with electromagnetic radiation?
I'm a professional engineer. I have a long history of being an engineer.
Okay.
I was a nuclear submarine watch officer right out of college. I worked for Solar Gas Turbines, Planet Research Corporation, and then I worked as an engineer at a nuclear power plant for 28 years, the San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station. 23 years ago, while I was working there, I had a God knock injury. I hit my hard hat protected head on a pipe. I didn't see the pipe. It was below the brim of my hat. I had a cervical whiplash concussion. And my body went into pain, and it was years before I got out of it. Well, mostly out. I had all sorts of sensitivities. I became sensitive to my daughter's fragrances. Sensitive to the CRTs, the cathode ray tube computer terminals where I worked at San Onofre, to fluorescent lighting, to the microwave oven above the stove, to so many things. And it took a long time to figure out what the discomforts were about, and even longer to know what to do with them. Becoming a building biologist, a building biology environmental consultant, I learned how to measure and mitigate electromagnetic radiation from man-made devices and wires and microwaves, as well as the earth. The thing that I bring to Dr. J and to all of my clients is that I'm sensitive. I'm electric sensitive. And there was one time when I couldn't use a computer, and I was so fragile. It was a time when I had Lyme and mold exposure concurrently in so many things. And I worked my way out. Part of working my way out was to be able to measure and mitigate those things in my environment. So I bring a level of sensitivity to Jay's home.
Yeah.
And it's really been interesting to be here. Earlier today, after we turned off all the wireless things in the house, I turned to Heather, his wife, and I said, Heather, do you notice how there's a difference in how your head feels, that there's more space in the back of your head, that there's this settling? And she acknowledged that. It was like, the brain fog is gone. Electromagnetic radiation in all of its forms, whether it be the mains 60 cycle in all the wiring, or if it's the wireless communication devices, all have an influence on our nervous system and all the parts of our body. Some of us feel it profoundly. Some of us feel it to some level, but we don't know what to associate it with. And even Dr. J, sitting here today, you know what? Everything is cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
When we turned on the LED lights to light up this interview, God, I can feel those lights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are levels of sensitivity. It's there.
Yeah, it was very noticeable. I mean, as soon as the lights went on, that's been, I would say, my breakthrough. And it's been, you're going through the house and you're like, that's an issue. Wait, something, and there's, just me getting my mind wrapped around these different things, but kind of cleaned it all up. And then as soon as the lights went on, I was like, it's like I can feel stress now.
Yeah, I can feel stress now.
Yeah.
And where do you feel it, Dr. J?
In my head, I would say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In your head, in the back of your head, in your nervous system, in the spine. Actually, these LED lights are quite noisy. And they're noisy in a level that's above the normal hearing range. And it's electromagnetic radiation that interacts with the hearing, with the brain, interacts with the ears, the sensing. Creates a stress level to the central nervous system, but also to the midbrain, to the limbic system. There's something about dirty electricity and many forms of electricity. These subtle frequencies interact with the midbrain, with the limbic system, to cause a level of And if we're strong and robust and we're young, we can do anything. But if we have challenges in our life, we have some inflammatory condition, there's a level of stress. It adds straw to the camel's back.
Yeah. And that's I mean, I wanted you to come to our house, analyze it, and then, bring what you find in your knowledge, obviously, to, out to the world, because I think this is something that's so important for people to understand and grab onto. Because again, if we can't see it with our own eyes, and you've probably seen this with clients, a disconnect of is that really an issue? Or maybe a spouse of somebody that is sensitive. I mean, talk to me about your experience with clients and how open they are.
One of my clients, Jim, is 6'4", and his wife is 5'3". Okay, and he loves this woman. He went out of his way to find her later in his life. He found this woman, loves her, and he loves all of his electronic equipment. We went through his home, into the bedroom. God, you sleep like this? Jim, all of this has to be turned off at night. And if she needs to take a nap in the day, all turned off. Let's put it all on power strips and move this section here away from the bed over to there. Done. Okay? There was a large screen TV in the living room. It had a wireless function associated with it. And it was fixed by putting an RF shielding material over that section of the chassis, which was on the edge, didn't affect the screen. And that brought down the levels to almost nothing inside of the house, still able to use the function, the wireless function associated with the control, which was not broadcasting all the time, it was only intermittent. So many devices we bring in our home have the potential to have a wireless or a Bluetooth function that's operating 24/7, as long as there's power to that device, even if the device is not running. Plugged in, that wireless function is running. So I find that. There's another class of situations where the spouse is, I don't believe it, it's bull.
Yeah.
And
that's my question. That's where my question was going.
and I'll help my wife because it's important to her. And so I have a class of clients that's like that, and he helps. She carries the instruments. She does all the measurements. When it comes time for the mitigations, he helps by turning off circuits so we can reduce the electrical fields in the beds. And he helps her get herself organized, but for sure, he still wants to have his Wi-Fi and his toys in his bedroom and ta-dum. And so there's a workaround where it gets mostly mitigated, so there's a better chance for her to recover. And those people who come to me like that, he doesn't have any problem sleeping. She can't sleep or wakes up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep. And she is so grateful to have someone come to her home to be able to tell him, look, we need to get the Wi-Fi out of the house, okay? And he says, we'll move it to the garage to the far end. Okay, it needs to be turned off at night. Okay, we'll put it on a timer switch. Everything in her office needs to be corded. Okay, we'll figure out a way to do that. I still want my Wi-Fi, okay? And the whole house, there's a remediation. Everything is reduced substantially. She has a chance to rest better at night.
So, and this is, I think this is where a misbelief about EMF comes in. It's just, unless you can feel it to a noticeable degree or can see it, then I'll believe it, right? I mean, that's kind of the mindset. But then when people have unexplainable illnesses, Lyme, mold, all this modern day epidemic of these modern, illnesses that we don't understand what's going on, unexplainable, EMFs start to surface and people start researching it and realize, okay, maybe this is a piece of the puzzle. So what would be the most common symptoms that would occur when somebody is overloaded with EMRs?
Allergies. Fatigue, not being able to sleep, irritability, depression, malaise, anxiety, chemical sensitivity, allergies, food allergies to substances,
okay,
brain fog, not being able to recall, having memory recall difficulties, just the whole aspect of cognitive functioning slowed or interfered with, and sometimes just pain, tinnitus, ringing in the ears.
That's a lot of symptoms.
There's a lot of symptoms there.
Yeah. I mean, I think about clients that I work with, Michael, I would say top 4 symptoms: fatigue, poor sleep, anxiety, and pain. Those would probably be the top 4. And I mean, what's your interpretation in the EMF, EMR world? All can be part of it?
All is part of that.
Okay.
All is part of that. I have clients who don't have Lyme who have those.
Okay.
Clint Ober, the guy who founded Earthing, has a list of inflammatory conditions that he believes are caused by electromagnetic radiation.
Yep.
And we're talking about Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, multiple chemical sensitivity, allergies, fatigue, all sorts of allergies, not being able to rest well or sleep as an inflammatory condition. And it goes on from there, even autism. So how are people affected? And I think that the thing to look at is that there are short-term and there are long-term scenarios. In the long-term scenarios, when the body's disturbed for a long period of time, there's going to be diseases. and probably the most deadly that we can think about is we have cancer, particularly brain cancer, and there's no way to like heal the body. I've learned to wear protective clothing. There's a device, a clothing called the Silverall hoodie, made from silver and rayon. And it's not super effective, but it's enough to take the edge off of wherever I am to make those extreme situations doable.
Give me a situation, like airplane.
Airplane, airport, sometimes people's homes.
So define a smart meter for the audience.
The smart meter is a digital meter that utilities are putting on homes.
Okay.
And almost all of these in the San Diego Gas and Electric area, and Southern California Edison and Pacific Gas and Electric, and many other utilities, all speak to the utility via a wireless system. So the smart meter is installed and it communicates usage data to the utility via a neighborhood area network, which is then communicated to the home office of the utility. And so the utility pretty much has hour by hour usage, and sometimes instantaneous usage, of what happens in your home.
Okay. Well, we were standing outside by my meter, and I was like, is this a smart meter? He said, yes. I'm like, how do you know? And you said, excuse me, stood by it. He said, I just heard it flip on, or I just heard it. So you heard...
Okay, so this is a radio frequency meter. It's a gigahertz HF59B, and it has an audio function. And with the audio function, the high frequency is heterodyned to a frequency that my ear can hear. And there are libraries of radio frequency sounds for this device. You hear the sound, then you know what type of field this is measuring. And so I stood there beside the meter, not in front of it, and at some point there was a screech, which is basically a frequency hopping spread frequency pulse at approximately 900 megahertz over a width of something like 20 to 40 megahertz, which is a signal that smart meter transmits to the home area network. It's a communication signal.
So, I mean, really, so we analyzed your house, Michael, and, we definitely have Wi-Fi things. In our previous house, we used to have Wi-Fi thermostat, so I feel like there was more Wi-Fi even in our last house, but the new house, I'm like, okay, I really want to reduce EMFs. We've got the Sonos speaker system that's all wireless, but it's plugged into switches so we can switch it off, and I only, turn it on when I want to listen to music. And, I was like justifying all this in my head, knowing, I'm reducing EMFs, and, I know Bluetooth probably isn't the best, but it's better to, have a keyboard and mouse and have my laptop propped up so I'm not, hunched over looking down. And I mean, you came in and I was like, this guy is like game on. You had your meters, you're testing, you now knowing too, you can feel that even without all this equipment, which I want you to go through in a minute too. But so much of my takeaway was we just need to get out of this smart home idea of everything Wi-Fi. I mean, really, because you can buy all these things that apparently shield or protect you, but in the end, it's an exposure, and the more you can reduce it, I mean, that's really, I guess, a takeaway from today. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, let's talk about today.
Yeah.
So these are the two meters we use primarily.
Okay.
This is a gigahertz NFA 1000, and it has both a magnetic and electric field, which can be selected through a switch, 3 axes. So we get the 3 axes. So we can measure magnetic fields and then switch and electric fields. And this is a gigahertz HF59B, This is the antenna here. It's held like this. And it has levels, fine, medium, and coarse. And, you know, I regret to say that for all the measurements in this home, we needed to use the highest scale coarse in order to see what the levels were. And some of the levels in the house were higher than the meter would indicate in its current configuration.
Meaning you had to tone down that just to see what the reading was because it was so high in the house.
Well, I had to move to the highest scale. And then there were places, for example, in your office, where it was off the scale, greater than 20,000 microwatts per meter squared. Let me just say what I found here.
Okay.
So using this meter, I came in, and here's Heather sitting at this dining room table, and she's got her Mac open. She's doing some email, and it's wireless, Wi-Fi enabled on the computer. She has her cell phone next to her right here, and it's on. And the Wi-Fi is on in a desk, in the desk area.
Yep, my office.
And where that office is. And the Sonos were off at this time, but for our evaluation, we decided to do it full signal.
Yep.
And have all the Sonos on when we went through the entire house. And, well, what an experience, okay? Each computer has its sound, and the cordless phones have their sound, and the Sonos has its sound, which are heterodyne here, and the Wi-Fi has its sound. So depending upon the proximity in the house, if we're closer to a Sonos speaker, that might be the predominant frequency. In the bedroom, the master bedroom, and in the office, and in the child's bedroom, Leela's bedroom, the predominant frequencies of concern were Wi-Fi, followed by the Sonos speakers. At Leela's bed, at the head of her bed, where she sleeps and she goes to bed. And I want to say that Jay has some smarts about this. He has his Wi-Fi on a timer, and it kicks it off at 10:30. Well, they're in bed, but the child is in bed at 7:30, and her head is in a field of greater than 20,000 microwatts per meter squared for 3 hours or more before that thing kicks off. And she gets up in the middle of the night and doesn't go back to sleep. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's a microwave field right at her head. And the office is like totally off the charts, greater than 20,000 microwatts per meter squared. What did I find there? I found the laptop, Wi-Fi enabled, the laptop Bluetooth enabled,
Yep.
Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, Wi-Fi printer in the closet, an industrial strength router in the corner, just about 4 or 5, 6 feet from Jay's head, Dr. Jay's head, and a Sonos speaker. Whew. What was really interesting is we turned it all off for the second part, and we went in there, and Dr. Jay said, "God, it feels calm in here." He did that. He just said, "God, it feels calm in here." You know, and when he said that, you could just feel his body relax. You could feel his diaphragm release. You could feel the tension leave his body. You know, it's not coming into the usual cave of electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah.
The master bedroom was also really high. And what was interesting is that outside, at least in 2 directions, the back and one side of the house, the microwave radiation there was caused by what was happening inside of the house. And I can truly say that the microwave radiation in this house, that the greatest part of that, more than 80%, was caused by the devices in the house, not by some distant radio tower or a mobile phone antenna, but by the devices within the house. Radiation levels were also really high on the bed. So for round 2 of the measurements, we turned everything off. And it's like you can breathe in the house again.
Yeah. I could feel you more relaxed.
Yes. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
That you could actually feel
Yeah.
someone be more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in your normal way of being, that you feel people more relaxed or more tense?
Yeah, I think we just innately know, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, when the lights got flipped on, I could feel your stress increase all of a sudden because we had them off, just kind of waiting timing for my daughter to leave. So, because we don't have lapels on, we didn't want the wireless lapel, so we're going with the boom mic. We have a backup mic too, but we're just trying to go less electronic. And then we flipped the lights on, and I was like, I could feel the stress, but then I think I could feel your stress too, and it was like probably just escalated,
Yes. That's the thing about me being able to work with clients and you being able to work with clients.
Yeah.
Too, Jay. There were some other things we found in the house. After all the wireless was off, then we could discern that there's a lot of radio and TV radiation, microwave radiation in this house. And it comes primarily from this direction. And that would be a northwest direction. The nearest mobile antenna is a Verizon, and it is in a northwest orientation. We're here more than a mile away. I could not hear mobile phone antenna noise on my meter with all of the devices on in the house, and then when we turned them off, I couldn't hear the mobile phone radiation on this meter. What I heard was radio and some sort of TV stuff. And then next door, when they were using their cordless phone, it was an analog signal, an old phone. And so now the next step was, well, what can we do to reduce this level of radiation in the bedroom areas?
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at a sleep canopy for Dr. J's bed in the master bedroom, and we're looking at shielding all the walls in Leela's bedroom and the windows. That's so that she'll have a safe play area.
Yeah.
The other areas of concern were the electrical fields. And Dr. J grounds his bed, and the electrical fields were really low in the measurements, grounded or ungrounded. Leela's were much higher.
Yep.
And so the plan there is to shield the walls. Shielding the walls will shield from the radio frequency radiation, but it will also, when grounded, block the electrical fields from the wires in the wall. Those are the two big areas of concern. There was another area of concern, and it was magnetic fields. Surprisingly, can you hand me this?
Yeah. This was the #1 bestseller on Amazon.
#1 bestseller on Amazon. This is a Holmes air cleaner, and it has a very large magnetic field, and it affected Heather more than 10 feet from where it was located.
Yeah, this was the ionizer, no ozone, but it was right by my daughter's bedroom, and the measurement was off the chart in her bedroom. And the thing about this one is we only turned it on at night to have some background noise and some air filtration while she slept. But that's obviously when the magnetic went off the chart. And then we had another one from EcoQuest that was in our living room.
Okay.
That was the one that did that did the ozone, and that one was actually quite expensive. But that was what's interesting about that is my daughter last week put a Band-Aid over the display and she told Heather this, "Mommy, I don't like this." It was like she could feel that she didn't like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were walking by with the meter. Heather was holding this meter. And it was like all of a sudden the number got big, and you're like, "Move up, move back, move away. Let's find out where it is." Come right down to the filter, and it was off the chart. It was off the chart.
It's off the chart on this meter.
Yeah. I mean, it was high. It was extremely high.
Yes.
And then we had an extension. It had it on an extension cord, which probably didn't help it either. Not a non-shielded one.
Yeah. Some of the things we discussed were how to reduce the electrical fields associated with extension cords for the lights and the devices around our couch and our bed. And I've suggested to Dr. J to get shielded cables and power strips, shielded power strips.
Shielded power strips, shielded basically extension cable cords.
And, and the shielding blocks the electrical field, so that's not emanating into the space where you're trying to rest.
Okay.
And I'm going to provide Dr. J with the contact information to get that.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to put that with the notes, of the show. Does that include, so if switch off Wi-Fi, go with just, and I even asked him, do they make routers where there's no Wi-Fi on?
Yes, you can get routers without Wi-Fi, and you can get routers with switches. And that's the easiest way to go. If you get a router and you have to go in the settings to turn it off, that becomes really complicated. Some routers require a technician to go in and find where the setting can be made to disable the Wi-Fi.
So as far as wiring and needing them shielded for extension, like you said, power strips, is there special cabling like for Cat 5, Cat 6 lines also, or
yes.
That's a different?
Well, you can get a Cat 6 shielded.
Okay.
And that will shield the Ethernet cable.
Okay.
It's not a bad idea to do the phones that way also. I recommend for my clients hardwire. So you get a telephone and it's a landline.
Okay.
And if you're rewiring, you can shield the telephone cable. Twisted pair, so twisted pair is shielded. The telephone cable running behind the bed will introduce an electric field into the bed, similar to Romex in the wall. So that's a consideration.
Okay.
Some beds have large electrical fields because of the telephone wiring and the connections. It plugs in on his side, the phone is on her side. The telephone line is energized at X number of volts. Whatever the telephone company is running, 24 volts as an example, emanates a field. The ideal, there's different ways to look at the bed in terms of electrical fields. Electrical fields, you can look at as like an aura. I have an energized wire and it has a field with it that looks like an aura, and it gets thinner the farther you go away. And over here we have the highest potential where it's energized, and the lowest potential over there where it touches the earth or a tree. If the human is standing in the middle, through capacitance coupling, voltage is induced in the body, which is measurable. When I'm in the middle of the forest and I'm using a multimeter selected to AC, and I touch the probe for the voltage connection with the selector to volts AC, and I take the common selection and I put a stake in the ground and connect that, my voltage is somewhere around 16 millivolts. And the meter is at its low end of the scale, and so it can be 10 to 20, 25 millivolts depending upon its sensitivity and accuracy. And that's our design. So we want to see the bed area like that at the design, so there's no stress. Building biologists, if we can get it down below 40, God, that's wonderful. And we do that by turning off circuits. And you just can't turn off a circuit and say you're going to have the body voltage less than 40, because circuits can be affected by circuits that are running parallel. You can turn this one off, but this circuit is still one here. But this circuit here is still energizes this circuit, still creates an electric field on this wire that runs behind the bed. Okay. And there can be combinations of circuits, would give you the lowest possible reading. So it's desirable to have that be as low as possible in the bedroom. You can measure it with a body voltage, and this process of the multimeter is one way to do that. Another way to do that is with this meter, or this one. This is an ME3951A. You can select electric or magnetic fields. Is to place this on the bed and get this as low as possible. When using potential-free electric field, this is with this meter not grounded, we'd like to see the electric field less than 0.3 volt meters. So in your bed, it was 0.4 and 0.5 volt meters with how it's set up. Yep. In Leela's bed, with everything turned off, it was like in the range of, I think, 9 or 10 voltmeters. So that's way too high,
Yeah.
and we need to mitigate that.
And it was a lot higher when the air filter was turned on, the electrical cord, right, the extension cord right by her too.
Right, there were two aspects of this. One was the electrical field, and the other was the magnetic field that it emanates from the device when it's running. So we turned this off, and the magnetic field dropped from 50, 60 down to in the 20, 25 nanotesla range. That's 0.25 milligauss, which is in the area of slight concern, but so much healthier.
Yeah. Big takeaway, that I kept thinking about, and this is why I hired Michael to analyze my house. And I think, a huge thing that I want to convey to you listening is there's probably a lot of tips that Michael's going to be giving and things that even we're going to fix in our house, and in my, Heather and my house. But I think everybody needs to have their house analyzed by a professional, because I think I just get such a big effect today that every house is so different, depending on who constructed it, depending on electrician. And then also, if there's a fragile group, I think little ones and kids, because their bodies are developing. And everybody's affected, but I think that's
anyone who's immune compromised.
Okay.
Anyone who has a health condition.
And maybe when you look at autism rates increasing with kids, vaccines always keep getting thrown out there, but it's like, what about EMFs? What about digital detox? What about the EMR, EMF, detox? So
actually, there's a medical doctor, Toril Jelter, in the Bay Area, who has a detox for this wireless stuff.
Okay.
And she recommends it for kids who are neurological problems,
okay,
particularly autism. And she talks about this wireless diet. And do this for 3 weeks, observe your child every day, and notice how the behavior is different or the same. And the feedback is from the parents, it's amazing. When they turn off all the wireless devices in their home, suddenly their child behaves differently.
Yeah.
Is not so stressed, is more responsive.
So I guess moving into, solutions, right? So getting rid of Wi-Fi, obviously big one. Getting a router, having everything hardwire basically. And if you said to me when you're doing the house, if you need to turn the Wi-Fi on, turn it on, but then shut it off after, not have it on all the time. But in an ideal situation, not to have any Wi-Fi then.
Right. Well, let's look at your house, Dr. J.
Yep.
So we have the wireless speakers.
Yep.
We have wireless computers.
Mm-hmm.
We have
my daughter has a wireless iPad.
A wireless iPad.
iPhones.
Oh yes, and we have a Bluetooth toothbrush. Can you imagine that? A Bluetooth toothbrush. It's like this. Here I have the meter. Would you turn that on, Dr. J?
Yep. So this was given as a gift. I just want to say that, but
the buzzing noise here is from this guy. God, turn it off completely, please.
yeah, it'll auto.
Why in the world you'd want a Bluetooth toothbrush to track on a computer somehow your brushing habits? Oh my God. Well, let's move it over there a little bit out of my field until it turns off. So for Dr. J, what we've recommended is that he hardwire his computers and turn off the wireless function on his router. God, the router has 4 antennas. This is an industrial terrain router. You can get routers that don't have any wireless function. You can get routers that have a switch, on and off switch.
Oh, okay.
And the first one is the best one to have. You'll know that you'll never screw up and get that thing turned on. And then there's the router with the wireless function that you can on and off, and you can check whether it's on or off by enabling the Wi-Fi on your computer or laptop to see if you have a signal or not. And the least, but it is feasible to do this, the least desirable way is to have a router where you have to go into the settings via the Wi-Fi or a hard connection to disable the wireless functions. And some of those are complicated and require a technician, help from the manufacturer or the supplier of the device, the telecom company, to be able to turn that guy off. The computers need to be Wi-Fi disabled and connected to a hard wire. When you connect the Ethernet wire to the computer, it doesn't disable the Wi-Fi. You have to turn off the Wi-Fi. You have to disable it either with a switch or a Wi-Fi setting. The Bluetooth keyboard and mouse need to be replaced with hard wires, and the Bluetooth function disabled on the laptop computer. The Wi-Fi printer, the Wi-Fi needs to be disabled and connected via an Ethernet cable to the computer. The Sonos, which is a Wi-Fi system, and the individual speakers are powered by mains power, it's plugged into a circuit, those all need to be recycled and replaced with, I would say, a corded system. No wireless speakers. There are those times when we want to have Wi-Fi for special situations. And so if we have the router with the on-off switch, we can turn it on, do our function, and turn it off. Sometimes there'll be a meeting where you want to have Wi-Fi. And there's a hardwire solution for that as well. It's to run an Ethernet cable to the meeting place and set it up with a Netgear hub.
A switcher, yeah.
With a Netgear hub, it's all hardwired, and there's enough Ethernet cables to go at all the devices.
Okay. And so if somebody is not in the San Diego area, like we are, to hire yourself to come by, and I would recommend you, obviously, to anybody in the area, and maybe you would fly, to...
I do travel.
Okay, you do travel too. Is there any resources or websites that you would recommend to find somebody local in the area? If
the building biology website, it's the full name is the Healthy Building Environmental Learning Center.
So HBELC.org or .com, I think.
.org.
.org, okay.
And there are many of the building biologists who have been certified or listed there, but only those who have actually paid a fee to have their names listed there.
Okay.
Many have websites, and so to search on a building biology environmental consultant.
Well, I really want to thank you, Michael, for your expertise and not only coming into my home for the day and bearing with obviously some of the crazy Wi-Fi that was going on right away, but just your take and making my home safer. And I hope listeners get obviously a lot of value out. We'll have the links and different tools and things that Michael makes available, and make sure that Michael's information is obviously on the video and on our website as well too. I just really want to appreciate you for who you are, and obviously your story has led you to do what you do. And I can tell you, analyzing what you do, what you've done today, I was thinking, oh yeah, I could probably learn it. I'm going to let it be with the professional engineers and the people that you do what you do. Kind of my saying is stay in your lane, right? What is your lane? And hire coaches, hire people that can help obviously get you to the next level. So I really, really appreciate you and your time, Michael.
Thank you, Dr. J.